She woke up before dawn the way she had every morning of her life. She was somewhere between 65 and 75 years old. Her hair was completely silver now. Her hands were knotted with arthritis from 60 years of grinding barley and kneading dough. Her back ached when she rose from her sleeping mat. Her eyes were not as sharp as they had been when she was 14, and an angel had walked into her kitchen in Nazareth. But the morning rhythm was the same. She lay for a moment in the gray pre-dawn light coming through the small high window. She listened. Outside the small stone house, the songbirds the mountain was named for, the nightingales of Mount Bulbul above Ephesus, were just beginning to sing. The cypress trees on the slope were rustling in the soft pre-dawn wind. Somewhere down the mountain, a Christian neighbor was already drawing water from the spring. She sat up slowly. She did not know yet that this was the last morning she would ever wake up on this earth. She did not know yet that before the sun set on this small Mediterranean mountain in Asia Minor, her son was going to come back for her. That she would see his face again for the first time in over 30 years. That every morning of waking and working and waiting she had done since the cross was about to end. She just knew that the cypress trees were rustling. The nightingales were singing. The eastern sky was turning pale pink behind the hills. It was going to be a beautiful morning on Mount Nightingale. This is the story of the last day of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Her final hours, her last cup of water, her last walk to the spring, her last prayer, her last breath. Built from Scripture, from the earliest Christian traditions about her death in Ephesus, from the archaeology of the small stone house on Bulbul Da, and from 2,000 years of Catholic and Orthodox memory. By the end of this video, you will understand what the most ordinary morning of an extraordinary woman looked like, and why the day Mary died is the most peaceful death story in human history. Picture the house she was waking up in. It still exists. Today the Turkish people call it Meryem Ana Evi, Mother Mary's house. It sits on the slope of Mount Bulbul, approximately 5 miles southwest of the ancient city of Ephesus, on the western coast of modern Turkey. Archaeologists have dated parts of the stone foundation to the 1st century. Christian tradition says John the Apostle built it for Mary himself. 2 rooms, rough cream-colored limestone walls, a flat roof of clay tiles, a single window facing east, toward Jerusalem, the country she had not seen in over a decade. A small hearth in the corner of the main room, a wooden table, a sleeping mat in the small inner chamber. And outside the doorway, halfway down a stone path, a small natural spring of cool water bubbling up from the rocks. She had been living in this house for somewhere between 10 and 20 years. John had brought her here when the persecution in Jerusalem became too dangerous. James, John's brother, had been beheaded by Herod Agrippa. Stephen had been stoned. The other apostles were scattering. Mary was nearly 60 years old, and she was a known associate of the Christian community. She was a target. John had taken her by ship across the Aegean Sea to a Christian community in Ephesus. He had built her this house in the hills above the city. He had set her up with a small Christian community of refugees from Judea who were already living on the mountain. She had been here ever since. Pilgrims came to see her. Christians from across the empire who had heard that the mother of Jesus was living in the hills above Ephesus. They knocked at her door. She received them. She fed them. She listened to their stories. She blessed their children. But on the morning she died, no pilgrims came. Just her son, her. She stood up slowly. Her knees ached, Her hips ached. Her hands had been swollen with the morning stiffness for a year now. But she was used to it. She had been an old woman for a long time. She wrapped her cream-white linen head covering around her hair the way she had done every morning of her life. She tied her woven tunic at the waist, soft, dusty rose, faded now from years of washing, the same color she had been wearing the day John brought her to this house. She slid her feet into the leather sandals beside the doorway. She picked up the small clay water pitcher from the wooden bench. It was an old pitcher, cracked along one side and patched with clay. She had carried it with her from Jerusalem when John had taken her on the ship. It was older than the house she was standing in. She walked out the doorway. The morning air was cool and clean. The cypress trees were silver green in the soft, pre-dawn light. A small lizard scurried across the stone path. The songbirds were louder now, the nightingales calling back and forth from one cypress to another all down the slope. She walked the small stone path to the spring. She had walked this path approximately 50,000 times, twice a day for somewhere between 10 and 20 years, morning and evening. She knew every loose stone in it. She knew the small wild thyme bush halfway down. She knew the place where the path curved around the trunk of the old olive tree. She knelt beside the spring. Cool, clear water bubbled up from the limestone rocks. She filled her pitcher slowly. The water was always slightly sweet up here, different from the water in Nazareth, different from the water in Jerusalem. She had grown to love it. She stood up. She did not yet know it was the last time she would draw water from this spring. She carried the pitcher back to the house. She set it on the wooden bench beside the door. She walked into the small main room. She set out the small clay cup she used for her morning prayer, the cup John had given her for her 60th birthday. But this morning, she did not pour the water. Something stopped her. She stood in the middle of the small room for a long moment. She did not know what had stopped her. Her hand was on the wooden table. Her eyes were on the small window facing east, the window that looked toward Jerusalem. She felt something. Not pain, not fear, not sickness. Something else. Something quiet. Something like recognition. She had been waiting for this morning for 30 years. She had been waiting since the day on the Mount of Olives, when she had watched her son rise into the clouds. She had been waiting since the morning at Pentecost, when the fire had fallen on her in the upper room. She had been waiting since the ship from Caesarea Maritima. She had been waiting since the first time she walked through the doorway of this small stone house. Today was the day. She did not know how she knew, but she knew. She walked to the small inner chamber. She sat down on her sleeping mat. She folded her hands in her lap. She did not weep. She did not pray. She did not call for help. She just sat very quietly on her mat in the soft morning light, and she waited. She thought about her mother, Anne, her own mother, long dead now, who had carried Mary in her womb in old age after years of barren prayer. Anne had taught her the morning blessings when she was 3 years old. Anne had braided her hair the morning she went to the temple at age 3. Anne had walked her up the 15 stone steps and let go of her hand at the top. She thought about her father, Joachim, the old man who had been with her in the temple, the man who had received the angel in the wilderness, the man who had walked her up the steps beside Anne. She thought about the angel, Gabriel, the strange light in her kitchen in Nazareth, the voice that had filled the small house, the promise, the yes. She thought about Elizabeth, her cousin, the barren old woman who had felt the unborn John leap in her womb when Mary had walked through the doorway. The 3 months they had spent together, the morning Elizabeth had given birth and Mary had wrapped the newborn John in linen. She thought about Joseph, the older builder who had said yes when he could have said no, the man who had taken her to Bethlehem on a donkey, the man who had built her a workshop in Nazareth, the man who had taught her son to hold a chisel, the man whose hand she had been holding when he died decades ago. She thought about her son, all of his ages, all at once. The baby in the cave, the toddler in Egypt, the 7-year-old who had asked her why the stars hung in the sky, the 13-year-old who had read from Isaiah in the synagogue in Nazareth, the 25-year-old who had stood across from her at breakfast every morning, the 30-year-old who had walked out of her doorway and turned south on the road to the Jordan, and the man on the cross. She had not let herself think about the cross for years. The blood, the crown of thorns, the 6 hours of waiting, the body coming down into her arms. She let herself think about it now because she knew. She knew this morning was the morning, and she knew her son was coming for her. Then the room changed. She did not see her son walk through the doorway. She did not hear footsteps. She did not see a vision. The Christian tradition that records this moment, Catholic, Orthodox, the writings of the early church fathers, is very careful about what it says. It says the room filled with light, not the light of dawn, not the light of an oil lamp, not the gold of the morning sun on the limestone walls. Something else, something brighter and softer and warmer all at the same time. The kind of light she had not seen since one specific morning in an upper room in Jerusalem 53 years ago. The kind of light her son had brought with him on Easter morning. She did not stand up. She did not cry out. She did not weep. She just looked. And there he was. She had not seen his face in over 30 years. She had not heard his voice in over 30 years. She had been carrying around the memory of him as a 33-year-old man dying on a cross outside Jerusalem for 3 decades. He was standing in the small main room of her stone house on Mount Nightingale. He looked at her. She looked at him. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Because what passes between a son and his mother at the moment of her death needs no public witness. The Christian tradition has been certain of this for 2,000 years. She did not weep. She did not collapse. She did not say anything dramatic. She just smiled. The same calm smile she had been smiling at him since he was a baby in the cave in Bethlehem. He spoke to her. Christian tradition does not record his exact words. Because, as one early church father wrote, what passes between a son and his mother at the moment of her death needs no public witness. But the tradition is consistent about what he said in essence. He told her it was time. He told her he had come for her. He told her that the work she had been doing for 75 years, from the morning the angel had walked into her kitchen to this morning on Mount Nightingale, was finished now. He told her she could come home. He told her he had been waiting for her too. She had been carrying him in her body for the first 9 months of his life. He had been carrying her in his memory for every day since. She put her hand to her face. She had been a mother for 60 years. She had been a mother to the Son of God. She had been a mother to the apostles after the cross. She had been a mother to every pilgrim who climbed Mount Nightingale to meet her. She had been a mother to every Christian who had ever spoken her name in prayer. Now she was just a mother whose son had come back for her. She did not weep. She would not weep. She had not wept on the morning of Easter. She had not wept at the Ascension. She had not wept at Pentecost. She had not wept on the ship to Ephesus. She had not wept the day John told her his brother James had been killed. She had been holding it together for 75 years. She did not need to hold it together anymore. She smiled at her son. She said the only thing left to say. She said, yes. The same word she had said to the angel in her kitchen when she was 14. Christian tradition calls what happened next the dormition. From the Greek word koimesis, a falling asleep. The Eastern Orthodox Church preserved the language. The Catholic Church preserved the doctrine. Mary did not die the way ordinary people die. She fell asleep. Her son took her home. What happened in physical terms is impossible to reconstruct from the historical record. What the tradition records is this. She sat very peacefully on her sleeping mat. She folded her hands in her lap. She closed her eyes. The light in the room was still there. Her son was still there. She breathed out one last time, very softly, like a child falling asleep at the end of a long day. And then she was gone. Her body remained on the sleeping mat, sitting upright, peaceful, her face very calm, her hands folded. But she was no longer in it. Her son had taken her home, body and soul in the Catholic tradition. Soul first, body following in the Orthodox tradition. Either way, she was no longer alive in the small stone house on Mount Nightingale. The light in the room faded. The sun was now fully risen outside the small window. The nightingales were still singing. The cypress trees were still rustling in the morning wind. A neighbor down the slope was sweeping her courtyard. The world continued exactly the way it had been continuing 5 minutes earlier. But inside the small stone house, an old woman had just finished her 75 years of work. She had gone home to her son. John climbed the path to her house mid-morning. He had been doing this every morning for over a decade. He brought her breakfast. He sat with her for a while. He listened to her tell him about her morning. He told her about the news from the small Christian community down the mountain. She was his mother. His own mother had been dead for 30 years. Jesus had given Mary into his care at the foot of the cross. Behold your mother. And John had been keeping that promise every single day since. He carried a small woven basket, warm flatbread, a few figs, a small clay jar of honey. He had become quite skilled at baking the morning bread the way she had taught him. He reached the doorway. The small stone house was very quiet. He stepped inside. He saw the small inner chamber. He saw her sitting on her sleeping mat. He saw her hands folded in her lap. He saw her face. He stopped. He had known her for almost 50 years. He had watched his older brother James die at Herod Agrippa's hands. He had watched the empire kill apostle after apostle. He was the last one alive. He had been waiting for this morning for a long time. He had also been dreading it for a long time. He set the basket down on the wooden table. He walked very slowly to her sleeping mat. He knelt beside her. He put his hand very gently on her shoulder. She was already cold. He did not weep yet. He just sat with her for a long time. The way she had sat with him in John's house in Jerusalem the night his brother James had been killed. Then he stood up. He walked out the doorway. He started down the mountain path to tell the small Christian community of Mount Nightingale that the mother of Jesus had gone home. The Christians of the mountain came up the path that afternoon. Men and women John had known for years, refugees from Judea who had fled the persecution, local Greek and Turkish converts who had embraced the new faith, children who had grown up knowing the old woman in the house at the top of the mountain. They prepared her body the way Jewish tradition required. the way she had taught them, the way she herself had prepared the bodies of every Christian in the community who had died over the last decade. John bathed her himself. He had been her son for over 40 years now. He treated her body the way Jewish sons had been treating their mothers' bodies for 1,000 years. With gentleness, with reverence, with the quiet dignity she had taught him by example. The Christian women of the mountain prepared the burial spices: myrrh, aloe, frankincense, the same 3 spices the wise men had brought to her son in Bethlehem 75 years ago. They wrapped her in clean linen. They carried her to a small tomb that had been cut into the rock not far from her house. John had prepared it years ago. He had not told her, but she had known. She had walked past it every morning on her way to the spring. They laid her body inside. They rolled a stone across the entrance. And then, the way she had taught them, the way her son had taught them, they did not weep the way the world weeps. They prayed. They sang the psalms she had taught them. They blessed God for the 75 years of her life. Then they walked back down the mountain in the evening light. Step back. See what the last day of Mary actually was. It was not dramatic. It was not public. It was not surrounded by apostles giving speeches or angels appearing in clouds or earthquakes splitting the rocks. It was a morning on a mountainside in Asia Minor. An old woman drew water from a spring. She walked back to her house. She set the pitcher on the bench. She sat on her sleeping mat. Her son came back for her. She said yes. She went home. That was it. The most extraordinary woman who has ever lived died the most ordinary death imaginable. In her own bed. In her own house. With her hands folded in her lap. With her son in the room. And every Christian on earth has been remembering her ever since. Catholic tradition calls what happened to her body afterward the Assumption. 3 days after her burial, the tomb on Mount Nightingale was found empty. Her son had not just taken her soul home, he had taken her body too, the way he had been taken on the Mount of Olives, bodily into heaven. She is the only person besides her son to whom this has happened. But that final glory began with this morning. An old woman waking up before dawn, drawing water from a spring, sitting on a mat, waiting, saying yes. That is the whole shape of her 75 years. Yes to the angel. Yes to Joseph. Yes to Bethlehem. Yes to Egypt. Yes to Nazareth. Yes to the wedding at Cana. Yes to the cross. Yes to the upper room. Yes to Pentecost. Yes to Ephesus. Yes to the spring. Yes to her son when he came back for her on the morning of her last day. Every mother who has ever finished her work and gone home to her own rest is doing what Mary did on the morning she died. Every old woman who has ever closed her eyes peacefully on her own bed at the end of a long, faithful life is repeating what Mary did on Mount Nightingale. That is the gift she gave the world, not just her son, not just the early church, not just 2,000 years of Marian prayer, a way to die. If this changed how you see Mary, subscribe to the channel. We have a full library of her quietest, hardest, most ordinary days. Tell me in the comments, what hit you hardest? The walk to the spring before dawn? The light in the room when her son came back? The single word yes she said for the 75th time? Or John finding her on the mat that morning? I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one.